Welcome back, everybody, to Fresh Outlook. I'm Taryn Winterbrill. Well, we have so much to discuss today. It's been quite a week with the results of the presidential election, the aftermath, which we've been discussing. In a moment, we're going to talk about Hurricane Sandy, which is still reeling on everyone's minds and the aftermath of that. But first, breaking news last night, the head of the CIA, Governor Petraeus, has resigned an extramarital affair. What did I say? The governor?
Not the governor yet.
I said it again.
Maybe he's running.
Thank you for listening.
Okay.
I'm just doing that to make sure everyone's listening. Of course I know it's the general. I have Governor Romney on my mind. So the general has resigned. The cause, an extramarital affair. I mean, chills down my spine when I read this. What? I mean, this is the guy that's supposed to...
What was he thinking?
What was he
Well,
thinking?
He was married for 4 decades almost.
There's a code. I mean, he's been in the military forever. He must live by this code.
It's a court-martialable condition, actually. You can get thrown in the brig for that for a good long time.
But the question is, I mean, is he putting, in terms of foreign policy?
Well, that's why he resigned, ultimately.
Sure,
I mean,
but how much of a risk is he putting us at? I mean, has he put us at?
Who knows? I mean, it has yet to be fully determined who she was. Was it in fact his biographer? And if so, what does she know? And what could get out? I mean, those are all questions that have yet, I think, to be fully fleshed out.
A lot of folk are alleging that it's his biographer, and that the FBI investigation started because I think his Gmail account was compromised in one way or another. It doesn't seem, though, that the FBI has found any there. It doesn't seem there's any substance to any compromising of access to important documents or to classified documents. But even the potential of that is the reason why he stepped down.
So what are the implications of it?
Do you remember, actually, was it when the Secret Service got busted?
Partying
in Colombia, was it Colombia? In Argentina.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of that that's been going on lately in the security realms of our government, and they mock us in Europe for actually getting so uptight about sexual indiscretions on the one hand. But on the other hand, you're talking about people that are charged with protecting the President of the United States and then protecting us and the rest of the world and allowing themselves to be put into very, very compromising situations.
Well, look, she was a biographer. This reminds me of Rio Hunter. It's like all these women who go in working, they're writing a biography, they're doing a documentary, and next thing you know, scandal.
And that was trivial by comparison with something like this happening, I believe.
Yeah,
you don't think so?
Right.
You're going to cut some slack on this
one
here.
All right, guys, we can. I'd love to continue with this, but let's move on to Hurricane Sandy, the largest Atlantic hurricane on record, with winds spanning 1,100 miles. I mean, what a week, to put it mildly. Take a look.
Obviously, everybody is aware at this point that this is going to be a big and powerful storm.
A little over a year after the massively destructive Irene, the northeastern U.S. was once again ravaged by a large storm. Hurricane Sandy made landfall early last week, leaving a path of destruction and tragedy in its wake. New Jersey and New York were the hardest hit, as millions lost power and thousands lost their homes.
I lost everything, how you can see. So I don't have place, I don't have anything. I'm alive, but it's hard, so hard. I lost everything. I have my family, my 2 daughters, my husband.
The New Jersey shore, a holiday haven for generations, is now in ruins. And New York City, the town that never sleeps, was left powerless for days. The lasting effects of this historic storm will be felt for years to come. With over $55 billion in damage and thousands still homeless, the effort to rebuild after Sandy is just beginning.
You don't get used to looking at those pictures. I mean, it's just heart-wrenching every time you see. I mean,
because it's
Jersey
ongoing.
Shore. It doesn't end, and with storm after storm, as we approach the winter months here in the Northeast, I mean, I kind of worry about what's ahead.
I saw 5 feet of seawater coming up my block and engulfing our cars, and the irony, though, is that all the resources went to Manhattan and kind of getting things up and running there. We live in Coney Island, Brighton Beach area, Brooklyn, and
so you felt slighted?
Yeah, because that's where the real damage was done. But my heart goes out to the people who suffer these. But let's not forget, this is actually the middle class and upper middle class's Katrina.
Right.
And these are wealthy people who've suffered the brunt of this.
Well, what about the people what about the people in housing projects?
There's a lot of seniors that were stuck in high-rise buildings. A lot of elderly people.
And
a lot of
Staten Island
people.
community is not by any stretch of the imagination.
No, it is a very working-class community.
It's funny you talk about this because I had this conversation with someone. I think that there's a block on Park Avenue in Manhattan that has the most expensive zip code in the country, and he has this conspiracy theory, basically saying that if the eye of the storm would have been on the Upper East Side of the Park Avenue area, power would have gone on much faster than it actually did, because we, you know, on average took about 7 days in Manhattan, and power, by the way, is still at thousands of people still do not have power. We should
in Lower
say.
Manhattan.
Do you guys think there's any truth to that statement, that had this have hit in the wealthiest zip code in America, power would have been restored faster?
Maybe, maybe not. We didn't really know where it was going to be hitting, actually. But the fact is that we saw it coming for 10 days. We were watching the news, watching the Weather Channel, knowing it's going to hit. It's 5 days, 4 or 3. And
so
really,
preparation should have been better?
We never even moved our cars. We left our cars on the street when the ocean came in and flooded them. We didn't believe it.
Right.
This is the message here, that actually, guess what? The climate's changing. And guess what? We still don't believe it.
Right.
I believe it.
So what's the solution? What do we do?
Well, I mean, it depends if you're talking about a short-term solution. For example, Bloomberg was vilified for not, you know, predicting better and evacuating sooner when the snowstorm hit a couple of years ago in New York City, and there were people that died and didn't have access and stuff like that. This time he did things like shut down the subway system ahead of time to make sure that people weren't going to be stuck and subsubmerged, because we saw the Battery Tunnel is still underwater. It's still filled with 43 million gallons of seawater. Right. The Holland Tunnel was still, the opening was delayed. All of those things, so that I think more casualties could have happened, more casualties, not the infrastructure damage that I'm talking about, but more physical, actual human casualties, had there not been certain preventative measures that were taken. That being said, you know, he went ahead and he still said, oh, let's go do the marathon, and then retracted on that and said, no, I'm not going to do it. And I'm glad that that Bloomberg decided to cancel the marathon, even though it would have netted $350 million for the city, money that the city could have used.
Do you think we should have run the marathon? Do you think we should have run the marathon?
No, I don't. I think it was the right call.
I think he made the call a little late. Better late than never, though, is what I say.
It was late.
We saw some of those just disturbing images. They're still reeling in our minds of the Jersey Shore, and New Jersey, one of the hardest hit places in the country. Everyone's praising Chris Christie, obviously, myself included, for his response. Take a look at what went down in New Jersey.
Oh, I don't give a damn about Election Day. It doesn't matter a lick to me at the moment. I've got much bigger fish to fry than that. So do the people of the state of New Jersey. So let the politicians who are on the ballot worry about Election Day. It's not my problem. I'm not dealing with it at the moment. As we get closer to Election Day, I'll ask.
Right. First, let me just say, he says it the way it is. He's a real East Coaster. He cuts through all the filler. I love it. He said, I don't give a damn about the election, because that is not a priority when you're in a state of emergency. So I like that guy. He also, strikingly, is a little off topic. He reminds me a little bit of Chris Farley. He does.
Well, let's hope he doesn't meet the same fate that Chris Farley did.
But I do worry. I do worry about his health. Every time I see Chris Christie speak,
I
worry about his heart.
Politician.
Yes, I worry about his heart and the amount of stress that he does have to deal with. I am surprised that he isn't in better shape. Which I know is we're digressing a little bit,
he's
but
I
always think about that.
I think he really showed he showed great colors this week, and I think he's going to be a strong candidate for president in 2016.
I think so. And what do we think about his bromance with Obama? I mean, he came out.
I think they had to do it politically, but I think there was a lot of heart in that as well.
I think they had to do it because they had to do their jobs. I mean, I don't even think it was politics. They had to do their jobs.
Service.
It was absolutely important. I mean, and we should talk for a minute about infrastructure and climate change, because that's the real story behind Sandy, which is, we need to sort of get the American Jobs Act passed so we can get folk into these communities, rebuild these communities, but also so we can refurbish our infrastructure. There are ways for us to build reefs and build things that can prevent floods.
Well,
and
you're
prevent
talking about building one in Manhattan.
The Netherlands has this device that's like 15 million.
What did you say, the Netherlands?
The Netherlands has this device, this damn device. It's like $15 billion
device?
No pun intended.
But
no,
they don't flood.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Right. So that's what makes, but it's $15 billion.
Never
expensive,
right, so you have to have a plan moving forward that this is going to be important, and that we recognize that there's climate change. Climate change, by the way, is that the intensity of the storm of Sandy is greater. It's not that there's going to be more of these storms. It's that whatever we do have happening is happening at a more exactly. Yes. So there's it's doing more damage.
It's bigger. It's wetter. Yes.
Exactly.
But we're preaching to the choir when we talk about these things on this particular show. What about people who still don't believe that climate change is happening or is coming? What about them?
My teacher in 8th grade, my teacher said, in the not too far distant future, Florida will no longer exist. Florida will be submerged in water within our lifetime. That's what he thinks. I don't think he's that far off.
I think that things like Sandy can help move the debate forward. I think that
it's a wake-up call. That's for sure.
It should
be.
Be.
There's a new documentary called Chasing Ice that's about where they actually are.
Anyone who doesn't believe it, watch that.
Chasing Ice.
Yes.
It's called Chasing nice. It's an excellent documentary. This gentleman physically...
It's a photographic documentation of the melting of the ice caps.
Oh, that's sort of like a, okay.
And
powerful.
It's very, because you can visually see the melting and the falling off of this ice cap over the last, it was made, and he said, I must do this now, and it was like 2006, 2007, I think, and he chronicled it for about 2 or 3 years, which is simply to say, can we afford to not do something about it?
Sure, exactly. Well, I do want to segue for a moment. These are serious times, but Saturday Night Live has been the topic of many people's conversations, adding a little bit of levity to the situation, of course referring to Mayor Bloomberg's interpreter, his sign language interpreter. Take a look.
Good evening and welcome, everyone. It's now been 6 days since Hurricane Sandy first hit our city. And while we're not out of the woods yet...
Hello, I'm Governor Chris Christie. This is my interpreter, Roxy Affuccianelli.
That is so funny. It never gets old.
I love it. She's like right out of The Sopranos.
No,
like,
but
get a couple
for
pizza pies.
people who sign and know, understand that expressions are actually really expressions and facial expressions and what you do with
all part of the equation.
It's all part of the equation, how you communicate when you
Do you think this wasn't just to play devil's advocate? Was this in poor taste? I mean, sure, we laugh about it. However, if you are someone who is hearing impaired,
it's less and less in poor taste nowadays. I'd say I kind of go for it.
Yeah, I didn't hear a major outcry from the hearing impaired community about this. I think that they
you wouldn't hear it, you'd see it signed.
Well, very okay. I don't even know how to say this, if this is going off PC or not. All I know is that the woman who is Bloomberg's actual sign language interpreter was extolled, in numerous times and across the board about it. And I think that it was just because she is so expressive and so good at her job. And I think that a lot of people that aren't as familiar with the sign language community and with hearing impaired, it brought attention perhaps to that in a positive way, that people may be interested in learning sign language now or doing something with it that they may not have before.
These are rough times. We need more humor, not less.
Yes, and
take some risks.
More stories of hope, people helping people. We heard a lot about that this week. Let's take a look.
Even during difficult situations, some were showing simple acts of kindness towards their neighbors.
We've been waiting about 2 hours. It's a pain. And this gas isn't even for us, it's for our next door neighbor. That's what people do, So it's kind of like the neighborhood just kicks in every once in a while.
Americans felt a sense of unity on the second day after the mega storm.
Everybody else is doing it. I'm not the only one, so it's like we all have the same thing in common here going through it. It's makes you appreciate what you have and that you work very hard to keep it.
Certainly does. I mean, and I hate to say it, but it's always in these sort of emergency situations, these life-changing experiences where it puts it in perspective that the new iPad or iPod, whatever it is, isn't really as important as we all think it is. And it's like so many of us, we were out of power. I was out of power and heat for a week, but I didn't lose my home. It wasn't destroyed like in the Rockaways and on Long Island.
And when they canceled the New York City Marathon, a lot of those folks ended up donating their time, effort, and energy, or their funds or whatever to hurricane relief victims. And I think that community is always need-based. When you have needs and you're interdependent, that's the foundational principle upon which societies can exist and be strong and grow. There's an old African proverb that says you can't break a bundle of sticks. So it's a bundle that keeps us together and keeps us strong. And I think that's what gets lost sometimes in this debate, to move forward and to be individuated in the United States and to always be self-reliant. And I think times like Sandy recognize that we are interdependent and we do need one another, whether it's getting gas for your neighbor or whether it's looking forward into the future and perhaps looking at long-term solutions.
Do you think it helped Obama? I meant to ask you guys that earlier. Did this the interesting timing of this storm, did it help him? Did it hurt him? Or did it not really affect the situation?
Absolutely helped him. I think he showed great kind of presidential demeanor. This was his Katrina. I think he came through the fire successfully. I think actually those who were on the fence, I think we're persuaded that he was the right man.
He's a leader. I think he showed his leadership skills
and his abilities actually to coexist with Republicans. Of course, he had his
one of the most popular Republicans.
Bloomberg endorsed him. Worked well. So I think we don't want to say, but it was good timing for Obama. I have to say though, I was a little perturbed by the fact that we spent so much time discussing that Bloomberg canceled the marathon too late. Who cares? It was canceled. Period. Like let's keep our eye on the ball here. Why was that such a big issue?
People question his leadership because I think they felt as if he should not have he should not have even thought to have it in the first place. And I think people generally think of Mayor Bloomberg as, love him or hate him, as someone who's a smart leader. And so it didn't seem too smart to try to do that. But I think you're absolutely right about Sandy, about the president. It gave him an opportunity to be presidential. And it came at the perfect time where people were actually tired of
And it also shot Mitt Romney in the foot a little bit about his comments about FEMA, because he had just been saying that he wanted to, let FEMA go. And then, here is Chris Christie, his former sort of right-hand guy over at the convention, that's saying
and the guy
we need
who refused
FEMA.
to run as his vice president, let's not forget that.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that I'm saying he was in the Republican Party. They were, he wasn't stumping for Romney by.
It will be a very interesting 4 years plus, at least for Obama. Check out the cover. I think is it Business Week? It shows Obama 4 years ahead, and he's got his gray hair, and
they had made a mock-up of Romney too.
They did. All right, we got to go, guys. We're out of time. Can you believe it?
Fresh outlooks. That's how it goes.
All right, I want to thank my all-star panel for all of their fresh outlooks: James, WJ, and Francesca, FM on the dial. And remember, if you have a fresh outlook, we want to hear about it. Let us know on our Facebook page, our YouTube page, our Twitter page at Ibru TV. I'm TWB or at TW Brill. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time right here on Fresh Outlook.